Welcome to Key Tech. Please describe this channel if you are interested in today's video. In recent years, the United States has been continuously increasing chip restrictions, and the recent situation looks more severe. After the United States, Japan and the Netherlands reached a tripartite agreement, the Netherlands stated that it would implement controls on lithography and other equipment, and Japan announced that it would restrict 23 types of chip equipment. This has the potential to form a chip siege against China, but the incident suddenly reversed. In recent days, 3 pieces of news have come in one after another, showing signs of loosening U.S. restrictions on chips in China. In this regard, foreign media said that this may be a change of strategy. The first news came from Japanese media. Japan's Kyodo News Agency stated that according to multiple insiders, Western Digital, a major U.S. memory chip manufacturer, has obtained a U.S. shipment license to ship memory chips to Huawei, but Japan's Kioxia has not obtained it. Western Digital and Japan's Kioxia are partners, and their products and equipment are basically the same, but their licenses are different. The U.S. move is believed by the Japanese media to deliberately use export control measures to support U.S. companies, and at the same time deliberately suppress allied companies. After Huawei was included in the Entity List, the United States has not relaxed its restrictions, but Western Digital's license shows that the restrictions are being loosened. The second message comes from the network. After the United States implemented the chip ban, TSMC stopped Huawei's Kirin chip foundry, resulting in Huawei's Kirin nowhere to be found. Later, Qualcomm obtained a 4G chip shipment license, and Huawei was able to launch 4G mobile phones. Recently, there are many rumors on the internet that the United States will allow Qualcomm to supply low-end 5G chips to Huawei, so Huawei's flagship mobile phone Mate 60 series in the second half of the year is expected to support 5G. But Yu Chengdong refuted the rumors to the outside world, saying that the news was fake news. Still, many are skeptical. The key is that U.S. chip companies are also striving for shipments, and the incident may turn around. The third news comes from the U.S. media. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that the Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Commerce stated that the Biden administration intends to extend the exemption period for TSMC, Samsung, and SK Hynix to allow them to maintain their wafer business in mainland China. Crucially, it is important to mention that these waivers will be renewed for the foreseeable future and will not be subject to U.S. retaliation. After the United States issued new export control regulations in October last year, the fabs of TSMC, Samsung, and SK Hynix in the mainland will also be affected. They will soon be granted a 1-year exemption period, but they have been working hard recently on whether they can extend it later. The above 3 news more or less show that the United States seems to be relaxing restrictions, focusing on intentionally weakening the effect of the chip restriction policy. Because the United States should realize that the chip restriction is not only ineffective, but has been severely backlashed. Intel, Qualcomm, etc. suffered a lot as a result, resulting in a thunderstorm in performance. Even Nvidia, whose performance is rising, CEO Huang Rengshan recently directly stated that the U.S. chip restrictions have tied their hands and feet, and their inability to ship will bring serious consequences to U.S. companies. And not only American chip companies, but allied companies are also affected, especially South Korea's Samsung and SK Hynix. Affected by the restrictions of the United States, South Korea's chip exports to China have continued to decline for several months, and its economic interests have been seriously damaged. It responded very strongly to this. Recently, both U.S. companies and foreign chip manufacturers have expressed strong dissatisfaction with U.S. chip restrictions. In order to continue to win over its allies, the United States considers taking care of the commercial interests of U.S. companies and allied companies, and even grants some licenses to U.S. companies such as Intel and Qualcomm, but allied companies do not. This practice of harming others and benefiting itself will bring greater opposition. However, the United States will not lower its face and directly relax restrictions or cancel the chip alliance, so it adopts the practice of extending the exemption. But is the U.S. really easing restrictions? Some experts said that the extension of the exemption by the United States is only a superficial phenomenon, and another strategy may be hidden underneath. That is, seeing that China is vigorously developing mature manufacturing processes, it is going to suppress this level in disguise. However, mature manufacturing processes can no longer be hindered by sanctions, and can only be suppressed by dumping. That is to extend the exemption period for TSMC and Samsung. These two companies can only develop mature manufacturing processes in the mainland, and they have the ability to erode the chip production capacity of the mainland. At the same time, Samsung and SK Hynix are very powerful in memory chips, and they can suppress the development of memory chips in mainland China after they are released. Therefore, domestic expert Xiang Ligang has always expressed opposition to TSMC's expansion of mature manufacturing processes in mainland China, because China is vigorously developing mature manufacturing processes, and TSMC has a great advantage in this regard, which will affect the development of domestic mature manufacturing processes. In addition, Morris Chang had previously expressed his support for the United States to impose chip restrictions on the mainland, which shows that he has bad intentions. Therefore, the relaxation of restrictions by the United States may be another conspiracy to stifle China's chip autonomy, trying to kill Chinese chips in the bud. In fact, this trick is even more vicious. China must be alert to this and must insist on building an independent chip industry chain.